welcome to the sixth episode of the Pepper Podcast. For those who are returning, welcome back. And if you are new, the Pepper Podcast covers a wide range of spicy events that occur in our daily lives. Two high school students cycle heated topics through discussion. I am your host, Jay Mehta, and joining me is my co-host, Andy Watson Uskanpen. And today's topic will be covering the tobacco and vape industries and how they've not only impacted our society as a whole, but have specifically been engineered to target the youth through messages that portray their products in a good light. According to the NIH, 37.3% of 12th graders reported any vaping in the past 12 months, compared to just 27.8% in 2017, which are record high numbers.
Yeah, I think that this topic is definitely one that's very prevalent amongst people our age and especially in this time because I vividly remember middle school and elementary school, like late elementary school, where I didn't know what it was until maybe seventh or eighth grade when like I started seeing it on the news and how it was kind of like an epidemic
Mm-hmm.
and I hadn't really experienced it. But like now, right? Like I look back as a junior into middle schoolers who are currently middle schoolers, and the epidemic of vaping and e-cigarettes is so much bigger
Mm-hmm.
than it was when I was growing up.
Yep.
But like it's just because it's become so popular and on social media and stuff, and I think that's pretty interesting to see that dichotomy.
Yeah, and something that you bring up, right? Like schools have like pretty much I hopefully every school has like banned vaping or tobacco products.
Yeah.
Well, mainly vaping because that's newer, but um it's sad that like people try to like sneak it in because they're like that addicted to it from the nicotine that they
Yeah.
just have to get like that hidden, and so like they have to go to like the bathroom or things like that
Mm-hmm.
to like just hit a vape. And that's something that's really sad to see because these are kids in high school, like they still have a life ahead of them. And if they're addicted to something at this early of an age, like who knows? Not only do we like not know the long term effects, which is what we'll go into, but they're going to be addicted to it for life, and they might be like an addiction on something else, which could spiral down into something a lot more like worse or negative for them.
Yeah, I can tell you right now that even I know people in my grade who do that, who vape in school. Like they definitely won't do it in front of a teacher or something. They'll go to the bathroom. And I know a lot of high schools in our county, like Gallatin and like Portland,
Hmm.
for example, I know I've witnessed like their bathrooms have like no doors, like no stall doors because it's been such a problem
Yeah.
that they take preventative measures such as that, which I don't want to see at our school because our schools, or at, like my school, Merrill High, is still pretty like tame, and the amount of vaping is very very minimal, but it still happens, and there's it's I've noticed it a lot more recently. It's kind of normalized, and I don't like that, but what can you do?
I agree. I agree. So I guess we can segue into I guess the unknown long term effects since we I guess brought it up. Um, there really are no long term effects of vaping specifically because it is new.
Yeah,
But for those that don't know, vaping is essentially where you just inhale vapor that enters your lungs. There's not a whole lot of data around the long term effects. That just has to come out with time.
yeah,
But it's seen as I guess, a better alternative to smoking and tobacco and things like that,
yeah,
which is true. However, I guess the way that it's been marketed to children, or I guess I shouldn't say children, it's been marketed to like teens, is it's been promoted as a just something that's better instead of a better alternative. And so the word
yeah,
alternative has really been cut from the situation. Just
yeah,
allowing for like kids to think that if I do this, not only will I look cool, but like it'll also maybe be better for me. And plus, it's just like vapor, it won't hurt me, and it smells good or whatever. So I feel like
yeah.
that's something that has been marketed to kids in a way, and marketing is a big factor. That Juul and these other big companies are creating.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's marketing is something that they use specifically um, to target their target audience in a specific way by using some small little innuendos and things like that, just to make
Yeah.
it look a lot more genuine to their target audience, which is unfortunately some of that is kids. And so they use things like they use advertisements with individuals that look young. And
Yeah.
although they
Yeah.
don't, they claim that they're over the age, they're of legal age, um, they still look quite young. And how there are fruit flavors, things like that. I feel like that's really
Yeah. Yeah.
discouraging.
The fruit flavors especially because usually kids are like, "Oh yeah, that's cool. It tastes like whatever mango." Yes, it may taste like mango, but what you're inhaling isn't just water vapor, right? There are
Yeah.
heavy metals. There's diacetyl, which is like has been linked to cause irreversible lung damage in factory workers, according to the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, as well as ultrafine particles, which, if inhaled, may cause damage to the respiratory and cardiovascular system, and like volatile organic compounds that may cause cancer and heart damage, as well as, nicotine, which is a very addictive substance,
Yeah.
right? Maybe not as addictive as like opioids or
Mhm.
opiates, but like it's still very addictive. And once you're hooked on that, the you can't really quit like
Yeah. It's
just like that.
very difficult to quit nicotine.
Yeah,
I think I know, or I've heard of very few people that have made the like, they've like actually been nicotine free and they've quit nicotine, but because it's just so difficult. It's, of
yeah,
course, it's not as difficult as full on drugs like opioids and things like that,
yeah,
but it
yeah,
is very addictive, and it's hard
yeah,
to overcome. Because like
yeah.
it's funny because like, sorry to cut you off, but
No, that's
like
okay.
this, it's the smokers that hate smoking, but they just have to like feed their desire. They have to satiate their appetite, and without it, they like aren't able to function, and it comes with withdrawal symptoms and things like that. And the withdrawal symptoms are very um, effective when it comes to just trying to get them to like come back and just keep the cycle
Yeah.
going.
Yeah, you can literally get sick from that withdrawal. And I think what a lot of people, especially kids our age, don't recognize is that vaping is like an alternative to smoking. So people who have
Yeah.
a smoking addiction kind of wean to, are like encouraged to wean to vaping because it's like it's supposed to be a safer alternative because of thousands of chemicals in the dangerous chemicals in a cigarette or something.
Hmm.
Vaping, yes, is safer than that, but I think a lot of kids think that, oh, it's safer, therefore, like if I do it, it's not going to be as bad, and like
Yeah.
it's okay, it is cool. You know what I mean? It's really not. And for me, it's like when I know that you vape, it makes me think that like I don't want to say it's like it makes me feel like you're dirty. You know, like you're like you. Why are you doing that to your body?
Yeah.
You're like
Exactly.
doing that intentionally, and it's not cool. It's just weird.
I agree. And it's something that I see like when we clean up our school for like trash pickup and things like that. It's really sad to see because I see jewel pods, I see tobacco papers, um,
Yeah,
I see these like just like trash of like tobacco and jewels and things like that, and it's like
yeah,
kids of like this age are doing, tobacco and stuff like that. That's like not healthy. But something that you bring up about how tobacco or like jewels are a better alternative to tobacco is that is true, right? For those
yeah,
that mainly like adults that are addicted to tobacco, a jewel is a better alternative because you still, I guess, keep your nicotine, but there's a lot less chemicals, especially harmful chemicals in jewels, or I guess vapes. Um, but like still, like with tobacco, um there's like increased risk of stroke, brain damage, eye cataracts, macular
yeah,
degeneration, yellowing of
yeah.
the whites or yellowing of the whites of eyes. You can lose your smell or
Hmm.
taste, things like that. You can lose your senses. And so having like a vape can remove a lot of those aspects, but then again, we also do not know the long term aspects. I'd assume that, I mean, over long term, constantly inhaling vapor is probably not good for you, um, especially because there are ultrafine particles. So I
Yeah,
feel like with time, more data will come out, but it is a
yeah,
better alternative to smoking and tobacco and things like that. But that doesn't make it. the better choice, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's going to be super interesting because within our lifetime, we'll literally get to see, like, in real time, the long-term effects that vaping and e-cigarettes have
Yeah.
on, like, people as in, like, their lungs and their health. And I think that's something that I don't want to say I'm looking forward to, but I think is kind of intriguing to me that I get to, like, know that that's gonna be able to be available to me, and like the people I know who like have used it or may like continue using that in the future. I just wonder what happened because obviously I wish them the best, but you just got to be smart with what you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, but again, like the popularity of it is what's so baffling for me.
yeah,
Because it's like, yes, e-cigarettes are on the rise. Um, and they apparently are here to stay because according to singlecare.com, um, which they take data from others, um, as of 2018, 9% of U.S. adults say they regularly or occasionally vape. But can you guess the percentage of high school students and how many, like what percent of that you think use vape products?
um, I want to say about 17%, 20%.
In the US, 27.5% of high school students use
Oh
vape
my
products, according to the
god.
Truth Initiative in 2019. So, I mean, this is, monumental data, right? Because there's a
Yeah,
lot. I mean, of course, this could be skewed, but I feel like still 27.5% of high school students, these are high school students, right? Usually 18 or younger.
yeah,
Not only are they underaged, but there's just they're in such large quantities that that's something that's really hard to see. Um, and a big part of that is marketing and advertisement. Um, and how what they do is they use not only do they use like brighter colors and things like that, but they use like actors or individuals that they present in their ads to be, well, not only healthy looking, that look great, right, but ones that look extremely young compared to their
yeah,
age, and that can pass as a teenager even though they're over the age. And so that's something that I guess gives teens the idea that, hey, I can look
yeah,
that healthy, right? Because
yeah,
that dude's healthy and he's using a vape, and it tastes good. I don't have any effects. It's
yeah,
just vapor, right? So
yeah,
that thinking is what gets people addicted, and so it's not necessarily the vapor right now. It's the nicotine that's really affecting people, because once you get into nicotine, it again we said it is very hard to stop, and so getting that like nicotine going and keep once you keep getting it going, it's going to be it might develop into something worse, like getting addicted to other drugs, getting just trying to smoke, just full out smoking, um, drinking, things like that that are harmful to your health, things that are definitely harmful to your health, because we don't know, of course, about vapes, but e-cigarettes are, I guess, a new wave of things that are going on, and they are a better alternative. But and like at the end of the day, it's just another form of profit that these tobacco industries or healthcare, or these industries that are not healthcare, that these industries are making to get profit from. And a target demographic that they really chose is the younger population, um, because e-cigarettes, not only do they look cool and things like that, but
yeah,
it was technically legal, which is what's
yeah.
sad.
And I was gonna say what you said about how they look cool. Yeah, e-cigarettes are designed to look more modern, sleek, and like elegant, to appeal to, today's trends.
Hmm.
And speaking of trends, like e-cigarettes and vaping has become a part of like fashion, and like it's cool to do that. Like if you see it on social media, on like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, the cool people like who you watch, who you may idolize, they vape, and so you're like, oh, that's cool. I mean, I want to try it. And like once you try it, you're kind of hooked. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
And because like if it like there's an air of like, oh, you're gonna be left out because like all your friends do it. Yes, but Like you need to make smart decisions for yourself and not like crumble under peer pressure, because I know definitely that like that would be that's a hard thing to do, is to say no and then like kind of feel left out, but like they're all doing something bad, and so it's hard.
Hmm. So like I've been looking, and you cannot technically buy an e-cig underage. However, a big part of these things are where they are influenced, like you said, not only by their peers but like by their families, or close relatives that are vaping. And so people that have, like, I guess, large influences in their life, if they make bad decisions, that may rub off on these people, and it'll eventually just create a chain reaction where there's just a chain reaction of the movement of the idea, that e-cigarettes are better. Why can't I do it? And so, I pulled up a thing about like how vaping affects teenage health. It affects like quite a bit, actually, that we don't expect. So it affects concentration, and it allows people to just not be able to think straight. So it's just a lot of background issues that cannot necessarily be like targeted on. So it's very difficult, I guess, to understand what can really happen, um, with these cigarettes. But I guess at the end of the day, parents that are um, that are vaping in the house or things like that, that rubs off on their child. And maybe let's say like, oh, let me try that once, it won't hurt. That can be perpetual,
Yeah. And what you said about like the sicknesses that can come with using those electronic cigarettes and vapes. According to the CDC, there's an outbreak of lung injury associated with the use of e-cigarette and vaping products. Also, there's a blanket term that is called EVALI, which is like e e-cigarettes and vaping uh, associated lung injury. And especially recently, like since 2019, there has been an exponential rise in the amount that of deaths and sickness and diagnoses that has occurred. Like I know, for example, there's a 15-year-old who died due to EVALI,
Yeah.
and that just shows to the extent like we are at the forefront of something widespread and something that poses a threat to many people.
Yeah. um and also what you talk about is like, yeah, young people under like the age of 18 cannot buy an e-cigarette, but again, they can still use it, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
using it can just be passed around, just like any other thing. um and again, with nicotine, we are in I feel like we are in an epidemic. We've been in an epidemic for a very long time,
yeah,
and the numbers are like waning with the amount of people that are using e-cigarettes and vaping, things like that, um, due to like the, I guess, there's a lot more information that's out,
yeah,
but it's still a very large number, and that's not very good to see, um, because they just these are children, right? They should be doing other things than being addicted. Um,
yeah.
because like
No,
nicotine can harm, like the adolescent brain, because the brain just
yeah,
keeps developing until around age 25. And so if nicotine, I guess, like disrupts something in the brain is not able to develop fully.
yeah, yeah. And you know, I think that goes back to like the idea that I don't think a lot of people necessarily are aware of, that liquid nicotine or liquid tobacco and stuff, that's literally poisonous for your body.
Hmm.
And I saw a statistic that said like in 20 from 2017 to 2019, the um, amount of cases of poison control, or like the amount of cases that poison control got called for the uh, liquid nicotine from e-cigarettes went from like 1 to 418 in like 1 to 2 years.
Yeah.
Like that just shows how insanely dangerous that the the vapor is. And
Hmm.
like I think especially at my school, like people are like, no, it's not that bad. Like
Yeah.
you can't really like overdose on it, or like you can't really, it's not like a cigarette. And like
Yeah.
yes, it's not like a cigarette, but it's still really bad for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess some more data, like why again we talk about how like marketing is so important. If it wasn't for the marketing that these companies did, it would not be as popular as it is today. And so there's just some things from the CDC that I guess corroborate how they've made it appealing to the youth. Not only do they come in various flavors, like we mentioned, including fruit, candy, mint, and menthol. Um, like people saying from a study of 2013, 2014, that most youth who use e-cigarettes start with the flavored variety, like mango jewels are a very like popular term. Um, so like there's also things that have um like several states and communities have restricted the sale of flavored tobacco products, which is good. But also they can just be bought online and things like that, and they can be shipped um, through other. Again, there's like always this thing. There's always this saying that's like, if bad people want to get bad things, they can. And so these children aren't bad people. They're just exposed to an environment where they've normalized these bad things, and so just normalizing something bad is not very helpful for the people at all, or like for their health, which is not good. And again, many youth also report using e-cigarettes just because they're curious, right? Like just being curious about e-cigarettes causes them to be addicted, which is very bad. And again, widespread advertising for e-cigarettes, including like via media, for which advertising conventional tobacco products is prohibited, and the lower cost of some e-cigarettes relative to regular cigarettes has contributed to the use among youth. So they've lowered the price of e-cigarettes to make it less than cigarettes. So like the people that are already addicted to cigarettes move to e-cigarettes, which also can then they can tell their friends about it, and once they get a hit, they got to buy some, but it's a cheaper alternative, right? Providing a cheaper alternative to something that's unparalleled only creates like a dominating factor.
Yeah. And like going back again, because this issue is very real to me, because like literally just yesterday I was out at walk break, and some people I was sitting with, just like with whoever I was with, like they were talking about like how all their like the people that they get their like vapes and stuff from are like they this is the term they said their plugs were dry. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, like this is so, for me this is like one of my first experiences with like an actual something like actually unfolding like that, like to me, and it was kind of like surreal. And I was like, okay, well, like imagine how it is at other schools where this stuff is more prevalent.
Yeah.
Like that's scary because there's an entire system
Yeah.
behind it, and the system is very illegal.
Yeah. So like again, we talk about, Juul and things like that. Juul is a company that creates vapes.
Yeah.
Um and so like their product, Juul is like it looks like a USB, so that's why again it contributes like the modern look.
Uh-huh.
But in terms of like economic value, the company like that makes and markets Juul recently exceeded a $10 billion valuation faster than any company, including Facebook. Their sales now make up more than half of the e-cigarette market, which is something that's just crazy to hear. It's that popular that it's exceeded its valuation faster than any company ever.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is really scary because the power that these companies do have, it's like, for example, if we take a look at the history of smoking tobacco, like cigarettes,
Hmm.
it was looked at as like a life lengthening good thing. But that's because we didn't know anything about the ingredients, what it did to the human body, how bad it was for us. When we figured out how bad it was for us, the FDA regulated it immediately, which I'm wondering if the FDA is going to regulate the usage and like the consumption and production of e-cigarettes and vape products in the future, because I know that they are trying to, but I
Hmm.
wonder like what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And so I feel like we've encompassed a lot about jewels or like vapes in general. Um, and so I guess we have to talk about the main beast of the argument, which is tobacco. Um, I guess vapes are created as an alternative to tobacco, and tobacco has been an ongoing issue for such a long time. Um, it started very, very long time ago. I remember one of my teachers saying that like she would buy a pack of cigarettes from the store for like 5 cents because like it was it was like targeted, and it was, I guess, it was normalized that cigarettes weren't bad until, I guess, like research came out that cigarettes were very harmful to health. But other than that, they were thought of as like a great brand, and things like that. So in 2019, nearly 14 of every 100 U.S. adults, ages 18 or older, currently smoke cigarettes. So 14% smoke cigarettes, and very that's like a lot of people. So in around an estimated 34.1 million adults in the United States currently smoke cigarettes. So it's
Yeah.
a lot of people.
And what sucks about like, vaping is like you said, it's widely available and accessible.
Yeah.
Like the fact that the kids can get it so easily and so frequently is pretty shocking.
Yeah.
And while yes, it is safer than cigarettes and you can control technically the nicotine intake, you're still taking it in. And like I don't know, I still can't get over it. Like we need to realize that yes, it's bad. And like personally, if I was offered one, I would say no. And like I'm going to be honest, if I ever had the chance, it'd be hard for me to say no because like it's like you always want to try it. Like what is all the hype about? Like
Yeah.
but like honest, I know that move that like choice could lead me down a terrible future and like could spark an addiction that like I can't control and I don't want that. So I like you have to say no. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people have that like that they don't think that far because when you vape, right, or when you
Hmm.
use an e-cigarette or even tobacco, it's instant gratification
Yeah. Yeah.
because your dopamine skyrockets and then you feel better immediately. But in the long term, you get dependent on it. And once you're dependent on it, your mood goes down, and then when you're without it, you're very irritable, tired. You're very you can get angry easily, and I don't think a lot of people know that because it's just better not to do it. You know?
I agree. I guess going back to tobacco, and I guess the people that make cigarettes and things like that, we've not really highlighted how much these companies actually make. So a company that makes one of the largest producers of tobacco, cigarettes, and like related products, um,
Yeah.
their I would say their both revenue, their fiscal year, and their market cap. Can you guess their revenue of the year of in 2020?
2020 60 billion.
It was around 26.15 billion, which is it was a
Oh,
measly
okay.
year,
Okay.
but their market cap is 93.657 billion. Yeah,
Wow.
right. So their return on interest is so high. Their
Yeah.
profit margins are so high, and that's why they provide like extreme benefits. Like their PE ratios are 38.34%, which is something that's so like large that it it's so profitable that it's just not funny anymore. But something that
Yeah.
we haven't talked about a whole lot is also like government regulation. The government has been trying to work on trying to limit the amount of e-cigarette usage by like youth and things like that. But they have like not fully talked about um, I guess tobacco. And the reason behind that is because the taxation of tobacco and alcohol and things like that, they have a higher tax. Um, and so the taxes produce like the products generate more than like around 399 billion in government revenues. So it's a lot of um money that the government's getting from like tobacco only. It's not even
Yeah.
just alcohol; it's just tobacco. And so 329 billion plus 70 billion from like value added tax on tobacco products, and then 329 billion from excise or taxes. That's 399 billion of government revenue. That's a lot of money that can go towards
Yeah,
a lot of things. And so
yeah,
telling a company to limit the amount of things that they do or something like that, it would cause a lot of negative effects on the government, because they want to be able to generate as much money.
yeah, and like that also kind of ties in with the healthcare system because they get paid with by the healthcare system too. You know, more people like this is like this kind of a stretch, but like if you're funding things that decrease the health of the population, you'll increase the need for health insurance and increase like the need for like assistance, and that'll increase people paying, and then you get more money too.
Yeah.
And like that's something that like I don't know a lot of people may connect, but like that's definitely a possible thing.
Yeah, I agree. Um, I'm currently searching like the profit margins of tobacco manufacturing companies. So the net margin for tobacco industry is 19.8% above the industry average.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
it's also interesting that Altria, the company that I was talking about previously, is founded by the Kraft Foods Inc. and Nabisco in another country, which is or sorry, another company, which is
Yeah.
interesting because Kraft Foods, they make food,
Yeah.
and Nabisco makes like
Mac
the
and
cracker
cheese. Yeah.
products.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's interesting that they are part of a tobacco company, and I get its profit and things like that. But there is always a correlation between these kinds of things. And so
Exactly.
another thing that tobacco companies do is they entice workers with like insane benefits. So workers get like the best health insurance, great pay, great benefits, things like that, in order to um, kind of give their workers the sense of the idea that what they're working for isn't a horrible cause. And it kind of
Yeah.
lessens the impact of what their company is doing, because the company like Altria or other companies that make tobacco products, they are they're legally binded by the government to create ads or include things on their products that says smoking is bad or hazardous to health. If you've ever seen that, um, they're hazardous to health, and it has to include a label um, talking about the health effects. Yet they're overlooked so often. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Just because of the nicotine addiction.
Yeah. Yeah. And like it's it's a really tough topic to tackle because there's so many moving parts. And
Yeah,
like you said, like the enticing of workers to work there because they get these benefits, it kind of like, yeah, it distracts them from like the reality of what they're actually doing.
yeah,
And I can't really blame the workers because like everybody works or everybody has to work. And it's just like the industry is so corrupt.
yeah. And also on top of that, the amount of waste that cigarettes and things like that they produce a lot of waste. Um,
Oh yeah.
and it's not good waste. It's not like fully biodegradable waste. I mean, most of it is, but some of it contains heavy metals and things like that that
Yeah.
don't decompose for a long time. And like the wrappers of tobacco products, like big cigars, those are made
Yeah.
of plastic that doesn't decompose.
Yeah, and like I feel like cigarette butts, if we're talking about tobacco, they
Yeah,
make up like they are one of the most common pollutants in the world.
yeah,
And I know like I saw some creative alternatives that people were doing to combat like this like city in I think Denmark, either Denmark or Finland, train their ravens to pick up cigarette butts and dispose of them for treats. And I was like, that's really cute, but like that the problem of pollution caused by products such as tobacco and e-cigarettes and vaping stuff like that should not be overlooked.
yeah,
Because I go to the beach pretty frequently, and I'm walking along the beach, cigarette butt, cigarette butt, cigarette butt, cigarette
yeah,
butt. Like,
yeah.
are you serious? Like, yeah, I try to like pick it up and throw it away. And this is real. I still have pictures. My mom took pictures of me doing it because like she was like, "What is he doing?" But
Oh my
yeah,
god.
it was really bad. It
I
was really
just
bad.
found some data. Cigarette butts and other tobacco product waste items are the most ubiquitous from litter worldwide, with an
Yeah,
estimated 4.5 trillion of the estimated annual 6 trillion globally consumed cigarettes deposited as butts somewhere into the environment each year. And this is in
yeah,
2014. But
yeah,
something about like smoking however many cigarettes a day, um, this is a bit of good information. It's not great information, but the average number of cigarettes smoked per day declined from around 17 cigarettes in 2005 to 14 cigarettes in 2016. So we are making some progress, but there should be um, I guess do have programs that try to incentivize, trying to like because you can't go cold turkey. It's very very difficult to do that. Um,
yeah,
you have to slowly ease it out. I feel like, of course, I mean I don't do drugs, so I'm not
yeah,
an
yeah,
expert in the issue, but
yeah. Me
um,
too.
trying to slowly ease something out would be the best way to do it because if you do it cold turkey, you'll have a bunch of withdrawal symptoms and that'll not be good. Um, so trying to ease things out through programs, incentives, um, either government backed or not, just providing incentives, maybe even provided by the companies, to provide incentives, that will slowly ease things out. That would be good. Or even adding legislation, even though it will come at a cost to the government because of financial reasons. Um,
Yeah,
they will eventually will have a healthier society, because if we don't have a healthier society, people are not as productive. They won't generate as much as enough, like, I guess we're looking at it from a financial point of view. They won't generate as much profit, and then the profit would not be taxed as much, and then they get less in taxes. So it does come around to the government. I think just slowly increasing the effect, I guess increasing the regulation on tobacco, is good. I know other countries in Europe have very strict regulations. Like, um, Great Britain has a lot more strict regulations about like e-cigarettes and things like that, which is
yeah,
good. Um, and they also have um, strict regulation on food, like the ingredients in food. But that's another discussion for another day. But
yes, yes.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think that like for especially for vaping, since that was a hot topic of today,
Hmm.
banning like flavors
Yeah.
and stuff like that, like fruit flavors, that is should be a big move because I know a lot of the appeal comes from, oh, it tastes good or it smells good, blah 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 blah,
Uh-huh.
and like trading flavors. Like, I think that if we were to ban those flavors and stuff, we would see a sharp decline in the usage amongst adolescents in the world. And like I know countries like India and other countries have like outright banned like the production or something, or the selling of vaping products. And like I think that if like we had more stringent regulation, as you said, and like more vigilant operations on groups who sell, vape products and e-cigarettes, and like where those products go, and
Hmm.
like more vigorous punishments for people who sell to minors, I think that that will like scare away people from
Yeah.
kind of selling to those people, and it's going to take a long time.
So
But
there's a few people that have, um I guess, prohibited the sale of both flavored e-cigarettes and menthol cigarettes. So Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, Rhode Island, and California. And California mainly with 118 localities, compared to like Georgia having one, New York having three. You know, but
yeah,
at least they are making an effort towards prohibiting, I guess, just any fruit flavor, because I understand the sale of e-cigarettes to adults because that's their choice, but selling that to children or marketing it to children indirectly, because you can't legally say I'm marketing it to children.
yeah, yeah,
Indirectly marketing to children is such a like horrible move that people can make, that I feel like that's not something that's good.
yeah, I agree.
So, I
And
guess go ahead.
yeah, no, I was just gonna just reinforce what you said. Like that kind of goes back to like the flavors, because I think that should be the main thing that gets resolved right now, and like a law or legislation that should go in right now.
Yeah.
That will definitely take a big hit because it's not going to just reinforce like adults who do it recreationally because they like it like that. Like, that's their choice. It's gonna, but it's gonna reduce the usage in adolescents and kids because like I'm all for public health
Hmm.
and like the good of the community, but it's at the end of the day, it's gonna negatively affect adults who have the right to use that.
Yeah, I remember a lawsuit from by like Jewel and another thing, but they had to like um limit the amount of um I guess like flavored products, and I think it was over like an ad that they had about like chill like a younger person in an advertisement, and so they said that they'd have to include for advertisements like people of older age and things like that, which is good. So we're moving in like the right stride or in the right way, but again, we have a long way to go. Slowly easing out like nicotine, starting with the things that are affecting children and youth, is the most important. So again, like you said, our e-cigarettes, our jewels, fruit flavors, and then slowly by slowly, if we want to create a healthier society, slowly easing out. I'd say tobacco first, right, and then moving to e-cigarettes,
Yeah.
because it's a healthy alternative. But
Yeah, I agree. And, it's just a matter of time before, the FDA, especially for America at least, kind of puts those more stringent regulations on e-cigarettes. And, let's just hope that we can improve the overall health of adolescents and, doesn't get to the point where the long-term effects kind of cause major problems for us.
yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yeah. And with that, our discussion comes to an end. Thank you for listening, and we hope you'll stay tuned for future episodes. Don't forget to follow the Pepper Podcast on Instagram, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Thank you.
Thank you.